I was born and raised in an environment which was after the partition of India, and and it was a kind of in terms of interfaith, an isolated situation, where the only presence of the religious other was the Christian colleagues of my father, and they were usually either secular people or lapsed Christians. So there was no actual presence of the religious other, and there was no question of interfaith friendships. The initial level of friendship, if we take Allen's models, 5-dimensional models, was when I entered into the formal Christian college for my higher education, which was a Christian missionary college, and we have a lot of Christian students and colleagues. But that friendship, or some of the friendships, were on the basic level of just social interaction or getting through the educational system.
You mean you never spoke about religion?
No. But we had good friendships. But it was just like a business friendship or school classroom friendship. That was all. And it can't be called properly interfaith friendship.
And there was the Christian, practical Christian or secular Christians?
Both kinds. Some of them were religious boys, and some were just lukewarm, like in every society, practicing, semi-practicing, non-practicing.
And the practicing never ask you what's your religion, how do you...
Of course they did, but they knew I'm a Muslim. I knew that they are Christians, that we had good cordial relations, respect for each other, but it's not, strictly speaking, an interfaith friendship, because we did not share common ideals, a common spirituality, a shared spirituality, or an affinity. Because if I define friendship, from which interfaith friendship flows out, friendship is affinity between two persons, and this affinity or complementarity, it comes out of a shared ideal or a shared spirituality or a shared level of spirituality, which was all not there at the moment. So my life went on, and what I said that it's all intellectual was that I rediscovered my tradition in a deeper sense, in a profound sense, through the works of the French metaphysician René Guénon, who settled in Egypt, and is known by the name of Abdul Wahid Yahya. Through his books, I rediscovered my tradition, and also the universalist perspective on religion, and then my entry into spiritual life. And it was practically interfaith friendships did not take place in my case until I started participating in 3 major initiatives of interfaith dialogue. First of these was SSR, Society for Scriptural Reasoning, where Jews, Christians and Muslims come together and study their scriptures on a selected theme every year through selections of all 3 scriptures in small groups, and then a plenary. It was there that I encountered representatives of the other traditions who had an affinity with me, in the sense that they were fellow travelers on the same path. They were scholars, and they had spiritual inclinations, or they were practicing spiritual people, and thoroughly grounded in their own traditions, in their scripture, in love with their scripture, traveling on a spiritual path, and dedicated life to God. And there I encountered, for the first time, Jews and Christians with whom I felt an affinity, just because on the basis of a shared ideal, a shared spirituality. So this affinity gave me spiritual friendship, interfaith friendships for the first time. And we developed that over the years, then in Cambridge Interfaith Program, than in other initiatives like building bridges, like one word, common word. So these were, and when I look at interfaith friendships, it gives me an opportunity, firstly, of gaining information about the religious other and the tradition. Secondly, to dispel certain misgivings that we gather from our socializing or the environment which we live. And most importantly, when I encounter appreciable or even a dazzling example of the same of the embodiment of same principles, values and spiritual aspirations for which my tradition stands for in an other, or I find that some aspects of thought or practice that have been eclipsed or slightly relegated, marginalized in my society, in my tradition, are very prominent in the other.
For example?
For example, if we say that social charity, if I see that in a Christian friend, there is an overwhelming drive for charity to help others, which is somehow neglected in my environment, that gives me an invitation to do more, to learn, and not to forget this very essential thing. Or for example, another very important virtue in spiritual life is humility. If another friend from another tradition is a walking example of true humility, that reminds me of something, that this is a very basic human virtue which I should have cultivated to that extent. Or remembering God, invocation, very often, always in remembrance of God. Or worship, acts of worship, frequent. So these are all positive things. And then it serves a deeper purpose for me, these interfaith encounters and friendships. It reminds me of the basic Quranic insight on diversity of religion, of multiplicity of religion. Why so many religions in this world? Why God spoke again and again to humanity and in different forms? That the absolute is never exhausted by any of its manifestations. It's the richness and all possibility of the principle, of the absolute, that there are so many possibilities, diversity, which are addressed to the ethnic diversity and geographical expanse of humanity, in which it has been for several thousands of years. And according to the Quranic insight, which interfaith friendships always remind me and keep it fresh in my memory, is that this is a symbol, this is a manifestation of what God had said in the Quran, that for every one of you we have appointed a law and a way. If God had willed, He could have made you one, but He did not. So try to compete with each other in good works, and remember that where you differ, when you come back to us, return to us, all these things would be explained to you, because He is wise and He is all-knowing. So if this situation of multiplicity, of diversity of religions is a divinely ordained situation, I am obliged, and through interfaith friendships, I am given an opportunity to celebrate this richness, this all possibility of the divine. Otherwise, this would be all a monolithic thing, monotonous thing, or a single colored thing. So this is divine will, that there should be diversity, and it is one of the very great symbols of the divine, of the sacred. That so I celebrate it, not tolerate, but celebrate it as a divine symbol, and I am always grateful that this opportunity is given to me through interfaith friendships, and it brings me out of my isolation as well. And according to the Quranic advice, invites me to a healthy competition in good works and good character traits.
Thank you. Very beautiful.
Wow, wonderful.
Thank you.
Your English is so good also.
Something is very interesting in your testimonies. It's a friendship with someone you never met, but you wrote the books, and I think that it's a way also of that friendship with sense, and it's also friendship.
It is friendship, and it's a very important aspect. In my personal case, as I just explained, that my spiritual journey or intellectual journey was through somebody who I had never met, but it was through his books. But there is a deeper aspect to it as well, that which I would like to narrate through an anecdote, that a great scholar of history and biography, or rather hagiography, of the early saints and companions of Islam was once asked, "Where were you last night?" He said, "I was in the company of the companions of the Prophet." Said, "How come?" Well, because I was reading and writing about their lives and how they lived out their lives in devotion to God, in total dedication, in worship, in remembering God. So in a sense, I was with them, in their company.
Yeah, you can feel the presence of the people.
Exactly. That the presence which radiates not only from a living person, but from it equally radiates from those who are not with us at the moment, but their spiritual presence, their work, and their scholarship in some cases radiates through time and beyond.
So we can be inspired by the sense and the books of all other religion, and it is also a sort of friendship.
It is a sort of friendship and a source of inspiration, that if you have not met personally, through the books or through the influence, because there is another channel of grace which works imperceptibly, invisibly, but it's as real as meeting you and me.
Thank you. It was a good point. New points that we didn't.
A new idol.